Welcome. My name is George Pearson and I run the How To Gurus channel here on YouTube. Most of the videos in my channel are short demonstrations of the different tools and techniques you'll find in various software programs. Right now I have several hundred of these quick videos available on YouTube. This video though is different. This is part of a new series of longer demonstrations that I'm doing to show you how to complete complex projects from start to finish using a variety of techniques and tools. All of the images I use in these projects are in the public domain, and I've included a link to the pictures in the video description in case you want to work along using the same images. Okay, let's move on to the project. In this special Photoshop training video, we're going to be looking at doing a hard light effect, putting in a lot of color, a lot of contrast into an image, giving it a real brilliant look. You can see we have that happening right here. Now, if I hide this and then hide that group, there's the original. See, that's right down there. There's our original on this. And then there's the full look for adding all of that color. Now, to achieve this, we have to go through a whole bunch of steps or doing specific things. We'll be using a level in here. This is going to be done just to adjust, make sure our image is as best as we can. We're then going to come in and do a gradient map in here. And this is going to help again to adjust our images, kind of adjust the colors in there. A little more color tweaking on that, hue saturation. Now the reason why we have some of these stacked like this is because each adjustment layer acts on the ones underneath. So we have levels down here and then levels again up here because we're working on through several steps to achieve this actual look. You really shouldn't be shifting these things around. It's going to change the effect. So we'll be working up and building the steps in here to create this. So this is all image adjustment in here, tweaking our image to the right point. We then come in and bring in our colors in here, our lights and our darks, bring those in, and then adjust the colors with a color lookup. We're then going to be taking this whole image, copying that to a new group, and then converting that new group into a regular layer and doing a little bit of work on that and blending that into this as well. So we're actually doing two sets here and blending them in together to get the full brightness effect on the image. Again, here's the original. We'll be working on this one, and here's the brightened up and exaggerated image. See, we've added a lot of contrast, a lot of color and so forth, making a much more interesting photograph from what is really kind of a faded, washed out picture. So it's not a bad picture, but it could use something, and we're going real bright on this one. Okay, let's go ahead and start working on this image. Okay, let's start on our image by normalizing our levels, trying to tweak those a little bit. Before I do that, I want to simply make a copy of my background layer. I always do this just as a protection. So I grab it down here to new layer, gives me a copy, and hide that. Now in this particular video, I'm not going to be touching this actual layer, but I still like to have a habit of always doing that. That gives me a backup copy just in case. Okay, so we have our background layer. We're now going to normalize our levels in here. So let's go ahead and bring up the layer menu and adjustment layer and levels right here. Choose OK. There we go. So on this we want to just kind of adjust the levels a little bit, make sure everything looks good. We can bring our darks in a little bit, maybe like that. Bring the lights up a little bit. Maybe tweak the midtone just a touch. Just trying to get the image in a little better shape. You don't want to go too far like that. That's going to ruin the image for you. But just a little bit of tweaking to try to improve the image as you can. Again, we don't want to be doing too much at this point. Just a bit of touching here. So just bring the black tones, the dark tones up a little more exciting here. Check your midtones, they look good. Brightening our lights up a bit. And just doing a basic improvement here to kind of normalize the settings for your image. That's just kind of an image adjustment, image repair level. You can use any one of the tools you want to for this. You could use your photo shadow highlights tool, whatever you feel like using. I'm just using levels on this one. Okay, now that we have that, we want to increase our contrast, but do it in a controllable way. And one way to do that is to use a gradient map, which is kind of a fun way to do this. So do a new adjustment layer, layer, adjustment layer, and then if you scroll down, we have gradient map right down there. Choose OK. So what it does, it actually takes a gradient and applies it onto your image. What I want is to have black to white. So let's just do our black to white. Let me just reverse that. There we go. Black to white gradient map. So I'm actually mapping the gradient in here. And now, because this has converted the whole thing to a black and white, I need to blend this back in to our color image. So we keep the image in color. We're just adding in contrast, using this to punch up our contrast. So let's go to our blending modes. Here we go. And come down to soft light, which is right down there. And you can see what happens now. We have increased the contrast of our picture. If the effect is too strong, you can adjust the opacity here. And I'll bring it down about halfway, I think, about 50% or so, somewhere in there. So you have some adjustment now with this. With the gradient map and the opacity on there, we can now tweak the contrast of our image with that layer. Okay, so that's tweaking our image. We're getting a lot closer now, as you can see. The next thing we want to do is we want to bring our saturation down a little bit. There's a bit too much saturation right now. We're going to be adding in a lot of color and color saturation later on. So we want to bring down the saturation of the actual image to leave room for our coloration. So let's do a new layer in here, layer, adjustment layer, hue saturation. There we go. Come on, ignore the hue, ignore the lightness. Just look at the saturation. That's the middle control right in here. You want to bring the saturation down a little bit. So let's bring that down to see how we're going in here. About 20, it looks pretty good. So I've brought down that. Let's see how it is. There's before and there it is after. So just brought our saturation down, brought the colors down a little bit. That looks good. So we're building as we go here. I think I'm going to tweak the levels a little bit at this point. Let me lighten up those darks. Again, a bit too dark. I'm going to take that, actually that part clear down. Just a little bit. I think I went just a bit too dark on that. There we go. It's a little tweak. That's the nice thing about doing these adjustment layers, is you can go back and you can tweak your settings as you go to keep it exactly where you want. So we're getting there. Again, we're adjusting things and leaving room for our coloration, which can be adding a lot to the image. Okay, let's go back up here to the hue saturation layer. We're now going to do another tweak on our levels again, but above this one. This was tweaking the image without touching the gradient map or the hue saturation. Let's now do an additional adjustment above this to brighten the whites up, but including these layers. So we need a new layer above that, a new adjustment layer and levels. And I want to tweak the whites, and that's on the right hand side over here. So if I pull this to the left, you can see how that brings the whites up. What I'm doing is, this is my white values, there's my midtones, there's my black values down there. These are the almost white values. If I move the white into the almost white, it takes those almost whites and makes them white. So I'm punching up the bright part of the image, making the bright part of the image brighter by doing this. Again, just setting things up for our coloration. Okay, now we're losing a little bit of our contrast in here. We did some with the gradient map, I want to bring back a little more contrast on this. Let's do another layer in here. Adjustment layer, brightness, contrast, choose OK. And we're just going to bring up the contrast a little bit here. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. This is the way I do that. I'll move the level back and forth like that. Kind of bounce it in and out until I see about the effect that I want, which is right around in there. Just adding in a bit more contrast without really punching the picture too much. Okay, so I think our picture now is just about where I want it to be for this image. Let's, at this point, put this stuff into a folder. Make a new group up here. I'm just going to grab all of these, including that background copy. Just move all that into the group. There we go. Now I can hide the group and look at the original. There's the original. And there's our adjustments. You can see we're bringing a lot of information out of the image already. You know, that's really kind of a dull, flat image. We brought a lot of that out. We've taken some of the color out, although we've kept a lot of the color in the image, in the girl here. We're now ready to begin doing a lot more to put in our hard color. So we've just kind of tweaking, moving things in the right direction. Let's now begin working on our color. So we'll do a new layer. And we're going to be doing a few things here. We're going to be doing reds up here for the top part of the picture, and then blues down for the bottom part of the picture, kind of the bottom outside. We'll try to leave the image alone except for spilling some red into the image here. We want to bring in some red on the outside. So to do that, we're doing a few more. And let's just go ahead first get our color. We'll just kind of a nice red up there. There we go. This nice straight red. I'm going to bring the image down in size. Let's just zoom out. So I'll be using a large paintbrush. I want to be able to, kind of center it up here with a large brush. I need to have some space above the image to do that with. And we're then going to lighten that up as well. Now our light source is right back up in here. You can kind of see it there. That's looks like there's a field back there. That field behind the trees, that's brightly lit, but the light source is towards the top here. We're going to be adding brightness to that light source. Okay, let's go ahead and go to our paintbrush. It's already pretty large. That's pretty big, I think, for this picture. A bit too large. That's 1,000. Let me try about half that size. I'll try 500 in here. That's pretty good. Kind of a medium-sized brush, as you can see here. And I'm just going to bring in a bit of red like that. Now, since we don't want this big red blob on our image, we need to blend this red into the image. And we're going for the light source, so we want to go to our blending modes here and lighten with that color. So it's going to be applying that to lighten things up. You can see there, anything that's bright, it leaves alone. Anything that's dark, it's lightening it up with that red. So that brings in kind of that red tone. Then we have that we can come in here and then just tweak a little more coloration into that sky area. Now you can add in more if you want to around here, and just add in more of that color. That's fine. It's up to you how much you want to put in it. It's going to depend, of course, on your picture exactly how much you do with that. So now we want to cool down our colors on the outside. We want to kind of cool down the area out here, cool down the area over there. So like right in this area here and right over that area here. So we'll be doing that same kind of trick. We're going to be using a darker color this time to bring down the colors on the left hand and the right hand side. So we'll make a new layer. There we go. Let's change our color here to kind of a nice medium blue right there. Full saturation is fine. Back to our brush. And then same trick, I'm just going to come in here and just put a bit of blue color off to the side, kind of the area down in there. There we go. Again, so doing another layer. Now we need to blend this in as well. So we're going to be blending in this color. And we have several options on this. So here we go. I think overlay is going to work out best for us in this case. You know, that blend happening, but this of course is too rich. I don't want it as rich as the reds. So I'm going to bring that out a bit by adjusting the opacity setting on that. So you can see what happens now. We've brought in some cools into our colors in there without letting them go too crazy. So that brings them close. It gives us that color separation here, warms and cools on our image. Now the colors you choose will depend upon the colors of your image and exactly how it goes. You know, you may want to use different blues. We want to be cool colors in here in your blue ranges, and then warm colors up there in your reds, yellows, those kinds of things to have that color separation. Okay, we're getting there. I'm going to add a new layer in here above my reds. I'm going to pull a little bit of red over here and here. I'm going to do it on two separate layers so that I can adjust the opacity of those layers separately. Let's just grab our, actually it was the bright red, I know where that was, so let's go to bright red, very top, there we go. I'll bring the brush size down. I'll try 200 this time. That's a bit more what I want. And I just want to bring a little bit of red in here over the shoulders, kind of spilling in on the left and right side a little bit. There we go. Now on this I'll do the same lighten setting. That's looking better. And then because I have these separately, I can now tweak the opacity setting. See, it's too bright right now. I can bring the opacity down a little bit. That keeps my brightness up here, which I want. And then I can bring the coloration down on the sides or down a little bit, and that just brings more of that brightness around there. Okay, let's take a look at this again. I think I'll try one more setting here. Let's try a soft light. A little better. Maybe bring the opacity up again. Just a little tweak. Just trying to find the right setting for that. There we go. Looks a little bit better. Okay, so we're getting closer now. We have our basic colors in place. Now I want to push all of the colors in the image towards kind of fall tones, and there's a really interesting adjustment layer to do this. It's called the Color Lookup. So let's make a new adjustment layer, new adjustment layer, and right down here, Color Lookup. There we go. Now this allows you to do overall color adjustments based upon different color files and different settings. And we'll be using the very top in here, 3D LUT file. And if you click on this, you can see there's all kinds of different options in here. 2-strip, 3-strip, bleach bypass, candlelight, crisp warm, and so forth. We're going for kind of a fall look. So come down here where it says fall colors.look right there. Click on that one. And there we go. That adjusts all of our colors more towards a fall coloration setting. So there's without, and here it is with. So you can see it's kind of accentuating those colors for us over the whole image. And we're getting pretty close now. We're not quite there, but we're very, very close to finishing this off. Now that we have this done, the last thing I want to do is to come in and really do a final adjustment on this thing. We can do our final adjustment by copying this group off. Now before we do that, maybe you want to take a look at your color balance. You can do that, or increase your contrast level. You can do those kind of things by putting in additional adjustment layers. Let me just put in one as an example. I think I'll take it back out again, or I'll hide it. But let's just put in here a layer, adjustment layer, and let's do a color balance layer. There we go. So if you want to come in and tweak your overall colors, like that's actually not too bad. There's a little tweak right there. You can do that here with additional layer or two to kind of fine tune the overall setting on your image. Just do that as a last set. Okay, now let's take this group and make a new copy of this group. Make a copy of a group by going down to the new layer button. There we go. And it copies it just like if you had copied an individual layer. Now if we right click on that, click on merge group, that merges the whole thing down onto its own group. Right now we're not seeing anything in behind that. Now I want to do just a couple little tweaks on this. So we're going to just soften it up a bit. So filter and blur, Gaussian blur, not like that, just a little bit of softness in here. Something like that, just kind of a softening the whole image down. You don't want to go anything any far that far. You want to kind of keep it just here. So it's kind of just slightly out of focus picture. There we go. Now I want to blend this back into our group, and we'll do that by using a blending mode again. So normal, and let's do a soft light. And there we go. That blends that softened image in with our background image. The background image we tweaked brought all those colors in and everything else, and there's our hard light effect. Now if you want to adjust that softness, you can pull that back a little bit here. So see, if I pull that clear out, we lose that extra punch on that. If I bring it in again, we kind of gain that darkening around the outside and a little bit of contrast in there, and it softens up the edges of things in an interesting manner. And I think something right around in there is looking pretty good. 80% looks pretty good on this particular image. Now once that's done, you can come back and tweak any of your colors. If you think you're too bright on your bright background, you can tweak those back a little bit just by adjusting the opacity settings in there, so it doesn't look too crazy, to get just the effect that you want. That's one of the advantages, if not the main advantage, of doing this kind of an effect by using all of these different layers, all these adjustment layers, because you can now go back at any point and adjust any of these settings. You can adjust the amount of your coloration in here, even adjust the positioning if you want to. You can adjust all of those settings, giving you full control over this look. Okay, let's now see how we did. So let me hide that. There's the original, and there's our final hard light version. Let's just bring that up to a full view here, fit on screen. There we go. So again, there's the original, and there's the full hard light look. Thank you for watching this special Photoshop photography project video. Don't forget to subscribe so that you will get first notice of new project videos in the future. Just click on this link right here where it says subscribe here. You can get all 12 project videos in this series, along with 26 special videos demonstrating the tools and techniques that I used in these projects, by clicking on this link right down here. And then thank you again for watching this training video.